AITA for confronting my spouse's lover during a family celebration? Throw RA. Okay, so I'm 34M, writing this with my hands still shaking. If you saw what just went down at my parents' house, you'd probably need popcorn and a neck brace from all the whiplash. My wife, Sarah, 32F, and I just celebrated our 7th wedding anniversary. Celebrated in the loosest sense of the word. Our families were there, balloons everywhere, my mom fussing over the buffet, Sarah's parents making awkward toasts. On paper, it was supposed to be perfect. In reality, the tension in the room could have snapped a steel cable. I'll be honest, for most of our marriage, Sarah and I were the couple everyone envied. We made marriage look easy, at least in public. But for the past year, things felt off. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and everyone goes silent, but you're sure you missed the punchline? That was my life. Late nights at work, catching up, Sarah glued to her phone, laughter at texts she refused to share. I thought it was just a rough patch. Every marriage has them, right? My family chalked it up to young kids, too much stress, but I couldn't shake the sense that there was a secret in our house, and it wasn't the surprise party I thought I was getting. Family dynamics didn't help. My dad's always suspicious of outsiders. My brother is a world-class gossip, and Sarah's mom likes to stir the pot with comments about not settling and making sure you're truly happy. All this to say, the night already felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of alligators. As guests arrived, I plastered on my best happy husband face, but my stomach was in knots. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. I had no idea that, before the cake was even cut, our marriage would implode in front of everyone we know. So here's how it happened. Halfway through the party, Sarah disappeared to take a call. Not her first vanishing act lately. I tried to play it cool, mingling and making small talk, but every time I glanced around and didn't see her, my gut twisted tighter. Finally, I ducked out to the front porch, needing air. And that's when I saw her. Not alone, but laughing, standing way too close to Mark. Yeah, that Mark. My so-called friend. The guy who always lingered a little too long at our house and texted Sarah memes at 2 a.m. just for laughs. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I tried telling myself I was being paranoid, but my brain wouldn't quit. When they noticed me, both went silent. Sarah's eyes went wide. Mark looked like he'd swallowed a bee. They muttered something about work stuff and bolted in separate directions. Red flag city. I went back inside, pretending everything was fine, but my mind raced. Did I have proof? Was I about to blow up my life over a hunch? But then, fate, or karma, or maybe just dumb luck, handed me the truth. I'd left my phone charging in the guest bedroom. When I went to get it, I noticed Sarah's phone open on the bed. She must have forgotten it during the work talk. Notifications were lighting up the screen. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I picked it up and saw a text from Mark. That was close. I wish we could just leave. My hands went numb. I scrolled up. There it was, weeks of messages. Jokes, late night, I miss you, secret plans. Pictures. A whole secret life happening right under my nose. I just stood there, frozen. In that moment, I had a choice. Confront them privately, or finally stop pretending, no matter how messy it got. My pulse was pounding. I could hear my mom calling for cake, people laughing downstairs. All I could think was, do I let this stay hidden, or do I make sure everyone knows the truth? I wish I could say I took the high road and waited until the party ended, but that's not what happened. I could barely breathe. My mind was a mess of pain and anger, and, honestly, I think something just snapped. I shoved Sarah's phone in my pocket, forced a neutral smile onto my face, and walked back down to the living room, where the party was reaching its sugary, photo-heavy peak. My family was gathered around the table, waiting for Sarah to cut the cake. Everyone was smiling, raising glasses, my brother already filming for memories. I could see Sarah in the kitchen, nervously fiddling with the knife. Mark, meanwhile, hovered nearby, pretending to chat with my uncle about football, but his eyes kept darting to Sarah like they were both waiting for the next shoe to drop. I don't know if I did the right thing, but I know I did the real thing. I cleared my throat, my voice shaking but loud. Before we cut the cake, I'd like to share something. A hush fell over the room. Sarah turned, startled. Mark nearly dropped his drink. I pulled out her phone, opened the messages, and, without naming names, read aloud just enough that nobody could pretend not to get the message. People gasped. My dad's face turned the color of the tablecloth. Sarah's mom clapped a hand over her mouth. My brother froze, phone still recording. Sarah went pale as chalk, then tried to snatch her phone away, sputtering, "We can talk about this later," but it was too late. Mark tried to stammer something about misunderstandings and boundaries, but nobody was buying it. My aunt actually stood up and told him to leave. Half the family started shouting, some at me, some at Sarah, some at each other. My mom cried. My dad glared at Mark like he wanted to throw him out the window. And me? I just stood there, shaking, exhausted, but suddenly weirdly calm. I knew this would wreck the night, wreck a lot more than that, probably. But after months of feeling crazy, I finally felt sane. I wasn't the fool anymore. I wasn't the only one carrying this secret. If there's a right way to blow up your own life, maybe this was mine. If you've never watched a family celebration implode in real time, I don't recommend it. The room went from happy chaos to stunned silence, then erupted into a chorus of angry, hurt voices. My mom was sobbing, my dad pacing in and out of the kitchen, probably weighing the merits of homicide versus therapy. My brother, for once, wasn't live-streaming the drama. He just put his phone down and stared at me, slack-jawed. Sarah, for her part, just kept saying, "Please, can we talk about this later?" as if the words could glue the pieces back together. Mark tried to slip away, but my uncle blocked his path with the subtlety of a nightclub bouncer. Some cousins started arguing about airing dirty laundry in public. Others were so obviously relieved that it wasn't their family on display, I could almost hear the mental Facebook status drafts forming. The kids, thankfully, had been shuffled outside with some cousins, though I knew the rumors would reach them by morning, the way wildfire does. The cake sat untouched. I think my dad muttered something about ruining dessert for everyone, and I almost laughed. Almost. Sarah's parents tried to go into damage control, asking me if I was sure I wasn't misunderstanding, and suggesting I think about the children. I showed them the phone, the messages, proof stacked higher than the cake tiers. Sarah's mom turned pale. Her dad looked at Mark with a mixture of disgust and disappointment I hope haunts him for years. After the initial chaos, a weird hush fell. People started leaving in clumps, whispering and glancing back. My aunt took my mom home. My brother tried to pat my back, but just ended up mumbling, "Damn, man." I stayed, numb, while Sarah sat across from me at the now empty table, mascara streaking her cheeks, muttering that I'd humiliated her. As if I'd planned any of this. At some point, Mark managed to sneak out. Sarah's parents bundled her away, shooting me wounded looks, like I'd brought this pain instead of exposing it. I was left alone in the ruins of the party, surrounded by half-eaten food, fallen balloons, and a silence so heavy it was almost a comfort. For the first time in months, there were no more secrets. Just the aftermath, and whatever would come next. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the looks on everyone's faces: shock, pity, anger, disappointment. My phone buzzed all night with a stream of texts. My mom checking if I was safe, my brother sending memes, because that's how he copes, and a string of messages from Sarah, ranging from apologies to accusations that I'd destroyed our family. At some point, I just put my phone on silent and stared at the ceiling, trying to remember what normal used to feel like. The next morning, the house was eerily quiet. Half the decorations still hung limply in the living room, leftover food abandoned in the kitchen. The whole place smelled like regret and vanilla frosting. I found myself sitting at the table, staring at Sarah's empty chair, wondering if I'd ever really known the person who used to sit there. Eventually, Sarah showed up to talk. She looked worn out, her makeup smeared, eyes red. She started with apologies, said she'd made a terrible mistake, begged me not to throw everything away over one stupid fling. I listened, numb, as she cycled between guilt, shame, anger, and finally, bargaining. "Can't we just move past this? For the kids? For us?" I asked her why. Why Mark? Why lie for so long? She told me it just happened, that she felt unappreciated, lonely, blah blah. All the usual lines. Maybe some of it was true, but at that point, it just sounded like static. What do you say when someone you loved rewrites the history of your marriage right in front of you? I told her I needed space. I wasn't ready to forgive or forget, and I definitely wasn't ready to pretend like nothing had happened. She cried. But for once, I didn't reach out to comfort her. Maybe I was colder than I should have been, but I couldn't help it. My trust wasn't just broken, it was dust. Later, alone again, I started cleaning up the mess, physically and emotionally. I realized that while everything felt ruined, there was also a strange sense of freedom. The truth was finally out, and the next steps, no matter how painful, were mine to choose. The days that followed felt like walking through the fog after a bomb blast. Every conversation was raw, every memory tinged with bitterness. Family group chats blew up. Some relatives offered awkward support. Let us know if you need anything. While others wanted all the sordid details. So, how long was it going on? My mom brought over enough casseroles to feed an army, hovering around the kitchen as if she could glue the family back together with food. My dad, ever the stoic, just squeezed my shoulder and told me to do what's right for you. No pressure, right? Sarah stayed at her parents' place, leaving the kids with me for a few days. The house felt emptier than ever, even when it was full of noise. Kids asking if mommy was coming home, me stumbling through bedtime stories, hoping my voice didn't shake. There were moments when I hated her, moments when I missed her, and moments when I just felt numb. I kept replaying everything. Was I too distant? Did I ignore warning signs? Was I somehow to blame? Every time those thoughts crept in, I tried to remind myself. She made her choices. I didn't force her hand. Mark, of course, vanished into thin air. He blocked me and half my family on social media. I heard through the grapevine that his own wife had kicked him out, so at least karma wasn't entirely asleep at the wheel. One evening, my brother came by and, in his own blunt way, said he was proud of me for not being a doormat. He also told me that a few relatives thought I'd gone too far, airing everything so publicly. You embarrassed her, one aunt texted. You should have handled it privately. Maybe she was right, maybe not. At the time, it felt less like revenge and more like finally screaming after months of being silenced. Sarah kept texting, wanting to talk, to explain. I ignored most of it. I needed time. I needed to figure out who I was without the weight of a perfect marriage act. For the first time in years, I started thinking about what I actually wanted, and whether forgiveness was even on the menu. Eventually, I couldn't put off the family fallout any longer. The next Sunday, my parents invited me over for dinner. Code for, we need to discuss what happens next. The whole extended family seemed to have an opinion, and I got hit with all of them at once. My aunt whispered that I should fight for my marriage, for the kids' sake. My brother, true to form, argued that betrayal deserves consequences. My mom just wanted to know if I was eating, sleeping, functioning at all. It was weird, sitting at the table where I'd grown up, now the center of a family drama I never wanted. The conversation circled endlessly, forgiveness versus boundaries, privacy versus honesty. Some relatives genuinely wanted to help. Others just craved the gossip. A few made it clear they thought I'd humiliated Sarah too publicly. I started to feel defensive. Was it really so wrong to want the truth out? Wasn't I allowed to be angry, even messy, after what she'd done? Sarah's family, on the other hand, went radio silent except for a single text from her mom. Think about the children. Please reconsider. No apology, no acceptance of her daughter's actions. Just pressure to make the mess disappear. That stung more than I expected. My kids seemed confused but resilient. I tried to keep life as normal as possible, breakfast routines, homework, bedtime stories. When they asked about their mom, I said she needed some time to think. It was the closest I could get to honesty without adding more pain. Meanwhile, friends started to pick sides. Some dropped off casseroles and stayed for beer and awkward pep talks. Others faded away, unable to handle the drama. Even my boss pulled me aside and told me to take as much time as I needed. These things break people, he said. Don't let it break you. At night, after the house was finally quiet, I lay awake wondering if I'd done the right thing. I kept replaying the scene in my head. Sarah's pale face, the shocked silence, the moment I chose truth over peace. Maybe I'd lost more than I realized. Maybe I'd finally gained something, too. It's strange how quickly life reorganizes itself around a disaster. Within a week, I'd moved some of Sarah's things into boxes, quietly packing up the remnants of a life I'd once thought was permanent. Every mug, photo, or sweater I touched had a memory attached. A mix of anger, nostalgia, and sadness all tangled together. The kids adjusted in ways only kids can. One moment tearful and clingy, the next distracted by cartoons or homework. I watched them and felt both proud and guilty, wondering if I'd ruined their idea of family forever. Sarah texted daily, sometimes apologizing, sometimes blaming me for making everything public. "We could have worked it out if you hadn't embarrassed me," she wrote one night. That hurt, even though I knew it wasn't true. For every message from her, there were two from friends and family. "Proud of you. Stay strong. You did what you had to." Still, the doubts gnawed at me. Was it justice or just revenge? Did I do it to protect myself or just to hurt her back? One afternoon, my brother showed up with pizza and a six-pack. We sat on the porch, watching the sun set behind the neighbor's house, and he said, "You know, you might never get an answer that makes sense. Sometimes people just screw up." I wanted to argue, but he was right. Maybe closure wasn't about answers, but about acceptance. Accepting that Sarah made her choices, that I made mine, and that sometimes the fallout just has to be survived, not explained. I started therapy, something I'd put off for years, if I'm honest. Talking about the mess, the pain, the choices helped. My therapist told me to stop hunting for a perfect way to handle betrayal. "You chose what felt true for you in the moment," she said. "Now your job is to heal." By the end of the week, I was still hurting, still angry, but for the first time, I also felt a glimmer of hope. Life wasn't over. It was just different. And maybe, someday, I'd be able to look back at all of this without flinching. The following weeks blurred into a strange routine, a half-life of new habits, old wounds, and slow healing. I focused on the kids, on work, on anything that kept my mind busy. Sarah stayed with her parents, calling a few times a week to talk to the kids, and, occasionally, to plead for another chance. I stayed polite, but distant. Trust wasn't a switch I could flip back on, no matter how many times she said she was sorry. People around me started moving on, but for me, the fallout lingered. Every family gathering was different now. Some relatives watched me with pity, others with quiet approval, and a few still whispered that I'd gone too far. The gossip died down, replaced by awkward silences or forced cheerfulness. Even so, there were moments when I'd catch my dad's eye across the dinner table and see genuine pride. He never said much, but that look was enough. Therapy became my lifeline. I started untangling the mess of guilt, anger, and relief that had settled inside me. I learned that it was okay to feel everything, to be hurt, to be angry, to be relieved that I wasn't living a lie anymore. My therapist kept reminding me, "You survived the truth." That's enough for now. Maybe it was. The kids seemed to adjust, slowly but surely. I tried to be honest with them in age-appropriate ways, never bad-mouthing their mom, but never pretending either. We developed our own rituals, Saturday morning pancakes, movie nights on the couch, long walks just to clear our heads. I realized, bit by bit, that family could be rebuilt, even if it looked different than before. There were setbacks. Some nights the loneliness hit hard, and I wondered if I'd ever trust someone again. Other times, I caught myself laughing at something silly my son did and felt real joy, a little sign that life does go on. The biggest lesson? You don't get to choose how others betray you, but you do get to choose what you do next. I chose honesty, even when it cost me peace. I chose my own dignity, even when it meant being the bad guy in someone else's story. The road wasn't easy, but I was moving forward, one uncertain, hopeful step at a time. It's been a few months since that night, and life, while not perfect, is settling into something that feels real. I still have hard days, memories, regrets, moments where I wonder if I went too far exposing everything in public. Sarah and I barely talk except about the kids. She's still apologizing, still hoping, but I know I can't go back. I don't hate her, but I can't forget what happened or the mess that followed. Family and close friends have become my real support system. My brother shows up with pizza and stupid jokes when I need it most. Therapy is helping me untangle the mess in my head. The kids are adjusting. Our family looks different, but we're surviving. Some relatives say I was wrong to make it public. Maybe I was. But I didn't want to live with secrets anymore, or have my kids grow up with lies simmering under the surface. The truth was ugly, but it was ours, and at least now I can move forward. So, Reddit, AITA for exposing my wife's affair in front of everyone? Should I have waited, or did I have the right to blow it all up? I honestly don't know. Sometimes I feel like the villain, sometimes just a guy who'd had enough. Thanks for reading, and for any advice. If you've been here, what did you do? What do you wish you'd done differently? Here's to everyone fighting through the fallout. You're not alone.